You just need a simple number like headcount or sales right now, but you can't find the link for the right Power BI report. You check Teams, you dig through emails, you open Power BI, and suddenly you're staring at a wall of buttons. Navigating this tool should not take longer than the actual decision that you need to make. My name is Anne, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly find, filter, and share the exact report that you need. You'll understand how Power BI should work for you. There's no more second guessing or asking somebody else to send a screenshot just so you can get the answer. You can just get the number you need and move on. Let's start where everyone starts. You open Power BI from the Microsoft 365 waffle menu. Yes, that thing actually has a name. But before we get into it, let's be honest about something. Power BI is not particularly intuitive the first time you open it, and it's important to recognize that. You've got recommendations, recent, favorite content, a whole bunch of tiles that are competing for attention. None of it seems to be organized around the decision that you are trying to make. Actually, you don't need to understand that whole home screen. You just need to know what matters for you and therefore what you can just ignore. A really big reason the interface feels so messy is that actually it's serving multiple roles at the same time. You've got viewers, people like you, who just need answers, not dashboards. And then you've got people who sit somewhere between consuming and building. People like citizen developers who are creating reports for them and their team, or BI developers who are working mainly in the desktop version of Power BI, building reports for others to use. And they just use the browser when they're publishing or managing data sets or reports. And finally, you've got platform admins using the exact same interface to do organization-wide things like access control and governance. All of those roles share the same browser experience. So, as a consumer, you end up with a whole load of buttons that you've no need for. And once you know that, you can confidently ignore them. You just need to be able to focus on what makes a difference for you. And luckily, you can pin and unpin what's relevant to you. Anything that you do unpin is never gone forever. You can always get it back later, especially if you start building reports yourself later on. For now, though, if you mainly consume reports, you really only need two places, the homepage and the apps. The word apps causes confusion. It's not the most intuitive naming convention by Microsoft, so I just want to clear it up. An app in Power BI isn't something you install on your laptop. Nothing gets downloaded, nothing lives locally. It's essentially a clear container. Instead of sending you loads of loose links, someone has packaged it all up, so everything that you need is just in one place. A Power BI app is the safest and cleanest way for consumers to consume Power BI content. Think of it a little bit like a Teams channel. You need to be added to it before you can then access the files within it. Apps are going to mean that there's no accidental edits, no version confusion, and no screenshots just floating around without any context. So if apps are the right place to be, the obvious question is, why don't they always just show up? Because it's really easy to assume that you don't have access if it's just not on your screen. But really, usually what happens is the app just hasn't been added to your profile yet. While some apps do automatically get added to your profile, others aren't, even though you are allowed to use them. To see the apps that you can add yourself, you go to Get Apps. Here you'll see two main options. There's third-party template apps and there's organizational apps. Organizational apps are the ones that are created and shared within your organization. You'll only ever see organizational apps that you already have access to. Once you've found the right app, I strongly suggest that you mark it as a favorite. That's what's going to turn your Power BI homepage into a personalized launchpad for the data that you actually use, rather than just a generic landing page. Now that you're in your app, you'll notice that Power BI looks a little bit different. Up until this point, you've been navigating the outer Power BI surface, finding the app and getting yourself to the right place. Once you click into the app, you're inside an experience that's been shaped by whoever built the reports within it. Before you start working with the data itself, it helps to take a second to figure out the layout. Most apps are going to follow a similar and predictable pattern. On the left, you see navigation between pages in the app. Sometimes the pages are grouped and sometimes there's only one. It depends on how the content sits behind the app itself. Along the top are the actions that you can take for the reports within the app, and we're going to come back to those. And sometimes, but not always, there's a filter panel on the right. The large central area is where the report or dashboard actually lives, and that's where the data is. And it's where almost all of your interaction is going to take place. However, that example of the inconsistency around the filter pane is a really good example of where Power BI can start to feel frustrating. Developers have a lot of flexibility in how they can build a report. Some lean heavily on slicers placed directly on the page, or others add navigation buttons to supplement those on the left. The flexibility is really powerful, but it can also be quite confusing when reports don't behave the same way. So what you can see or interact with depends entirely on how the report was built and what your organization has chosen to enable. If something isn't available, it's usually a deliberate decision, either design or governance led. This is often where, with clients, we help them introduce report guide rails, not to restrict teams, but to reduce the friction for users by keeping common behaviors consistent across different reports. There are some interaction patterns, though, that show up in almost every report. Clicking on a visual will usually cross-filter or highlight the rest of the page. Slicers are there for filtering, used for things like dates, regions, divisions. And interaction isn't just limited to clicking, hovering as well. So tooltips can contain information that hasn't been directly placed on the page. It's easy to miss them if you're a little bit too quick to click. And if you've clicked a bit enthusiastically and lost track, then you're able to reset it. Filters stack up really quickly, and after a few clicks, it's easy to forget what's active and what's not. When that does happen, reset will take everything back to the default, to the way it was when it was first published. At the other end of the scale, if you always care about the same slice of data, the same region, division, maybe your team, then there's no need to repeat that filter and slicing work every time. Personal bookmarks let you save filters, pages, and selections so that you can just set one up as a default. That means that when the report opens, it opens to exactly where you expect it to, showing you the data that matters. It's at this point that you're going to be able to get what you need from the report, and there's no longer a second guessing the numbers or having to fight with the report. And then when you've got all the info that you wanted, usually the next step is that somebody else is going to need to see it. Instinctive move is to take a screenshot, but really that's a bad idea. For example, whenever I've seen screenshots being sent, the next email is always, wait, what filter are you using? So sharing from Power BI itself keeps the question, keeps the context and the answers all together. It's going to save you time having to explain the same number twice. Now, there's one practical thing that you need to think about when it comes to sharing directly from Power BI, and that's the person you share with still needs to have access themselves. Permissions are enforced automatically. If somebody doesn't have access, they'll either be prompted to request it, or you're going to need to involve and request it from the app owner. You can usually identify the app owner by clicking the app name at the top of the page. I know that can feel a bit like a blocker, but actually it's a safety net. The important thing with data is that you don't bypass governance. So when you share this way, you're sharing safely. Then once the access is sorted, then all you need to think about is where the conversation is going to happen. In practice, the most common approach I see for sharing a Power BI is a link directly into Teams, using the sharing teams method. That keeps the conversation in a place that people are already using while still pointing back to the live report underneath. Comments directly in Power BI do exist, but I don't see them used that often. Most organizations default to Teams for discussion and decision making when they're using Microsoft. Either way, sharing from Power BI keeps it the single source of truth, underpinning the conversation no matter where that conversation happens. Though sometimes Power BI isn't the final stop, and when that is the case, you can export to Excel. There's different options to export, either live or static snapshot. What you can export and what level of detail depends on how that report has been built and what permission the report owner has allowed. In some cases, you won't be able to export at all. Or if you just need a hard copy, a point-in-time snapshot that doesn't need to change, you can grab a copy of exactly what you're looking at by exporting it as a PDF. Or if you're looking to share on PowerPoint, there's a built-in option for that. Screenshots fail the absolute moment somebody asks a follow-up question in a meeting. So, in the next video, I'm going to walk you through the really easy way to embed live interactive Power BI reports directly into PowerPoint so that your presentation never goes out of date. See you there.